Presiding officer, applause before I even start. At the heart of the committee set up to consider the Scottish Government's handling of harassment complaints are two women who have been failed by the Government. The committee's role is not to investigate the complaints, but to understand what went wrong, why the women were failed, so that women can never be let down like this again. I welcome the First Minister coming to the committee next week, but it is legitimate to explore some of the issues in the context of the Ministerial Code investigation led by James Hamilton QC. One such issue concerns meetings held with Alex Salmond's former Chief of Staff. Those meetings were the precursor to the discussion between Alex Salmond and the First Minister herself. But astonishingly, I understand that the identity of one of the original civil service complainants was revealed to the former Chief of Staff and then conveyed to Mr. Salmond. This is an extraordinary breach of confidentiality. On whose authority was contact initiated with Mr. Salmond's former Chief of Staff? On whose authority was the name of a complainer revealed? That action was certainly not about protecting the interests of the women involved. Did the First Minister authorise the contact? And if not, then who did?
First Minister.
I will answer all of these questions when I appear before the committee in detail, but it seems that Jackie Baillie is standing here before I've had the opportunity to sit before the committee and accepting at face value Alex Salmond's account of all of this. I do not accept Alex Salmond's account of much of this, which is why when I sit before the committee, I will go through in detail what actually happened and what did not happen. And I think that is the right and proper way of proceeding. Where I do agree with Jackie Baillie is that there are women at the heart of this. Women that I've been accused of hiding behind, when in actual fact what I am seeking to do is stand up for them, because their voices have been sidelined, their motives have been maligned, they have been accused of being conspirators in this whole process. And that's not only deeply unfair to the women concerned, I think that is deeply unfair to the efforts that I think most of us agree with to create a culture in Scotland where women feel that they can come forward with complaints. So I want the women to be at the heart of all of these discussions. But can I say to Jackie Baillie that accepting at face value the conspiracy theories and the account of the man that the women accused of harassing them seems to me to be quite a strange way of supporting and standing up for those women.
Jackie Baillie.
It is appropriate for the First Minister to come before this chamber and answer questions, because this, at the core of it, is about her judgment and her leadership. And absolutely, this is about the women who were failed by the government's botched handling of their complaints. Standing up for women takes more than warm words, presiding officer. But a complainant was named. That's not a conspiracy theory. A complainant was named. That is a fundamental breakdown in trust. It is beyond belief that anyone would tell the name of a complainant to the former Chief of Staff for Alex Salmond, which was then passed on to Mr. Salmond. How on earth is that about protecting women? Because it is a gross breach of confidentiality. Given the First Minister's comments about Alex Salmond and his behaviour in her daily COVID briefing yesterday, why? Why on earth did she repeatedly agree to meetings with him, even after she knew about the serious allegations against him? How was that helping the women who had complained?
First Minister.
Firstly, Alex Salmond claims that the name of a complainant was given. That is not the same thing as saying or accepting that that is the case. And these are exactly the matters that I will have the opportunity and many other matters to get into when I appear before the committee. And I will also explain why I met with Alex Salmond and crucially what I didn't do after I met with Alex Salmond, which was seek to intervene in the process or in any way sweep these complaints under the carpet. I heard Jackie Baillie give an interview some weeks or perhaps longer than that ago now. I think it was actually when my written evidence was published, where I had set out that one of the things Alex Salmond had asked me to do was to intervene to bring about a process of mediation. I declined to do that because I didn't think it was appropriate for me to intervene. I heard Jackie Baillie do an interview seeming to suggest that I should have done that. I should have intervened to bring about a process of mediation. So along the way here, I have faced accusations of collusion with Alex Salmond. I've faced accusations of conspiracy against Alex Salmond. Hopefully by the time I get to the committee, they'll have made up their minds which one it is they're actually seeking to accuse me of. The fact of the matter is, neither of these things are true. When I became aware of the complaints, I declined to intervene because I thought it was important a process happened. For somebody in my position, somebody hearing what my predecessor, close colleague, friend of 30 years was accused of, the easier thing to do, perhaps, and perhaps the thing in days gone by that would have been done, was to sweep these complaints under the carpet and not to allow them to be properly investigated. I opted not to do that, and whatever difficulties have happened since then, whatever pain has been caused to lots of people in this process, I don't regret not sweeping the complaints under the carpet, because that was the right thing to do.
Jackie Bailey.
There is an inconvenient fact here for the First Minister. And it's not what Alex Salmond claims. It's not about a conspiracy. It's the fact that the former Chief of Staff to Alex Salmond said that in one of these meetings, the name of one of the civil service complainants was given to him. Well, you know, it's interesting, Presiding Officer, the more noise there is from the SNP benches, the more I appreciate the difficulty they are in. There we go. See, it's starting again. Can I say this is an inconvenient fact, and it is extraordinary that that was revealed. But, Presiding Officer, this week, Scotland's democratic institutions have been exposed in their inability to hold this government to account. The Crown Office intervened with the Parliament, resulting in evidence being removed. Evidence that any one of us can currently access on reputable news websites. We have a government that has refused to cooperate, denying the committee access to the legal advice they obtained for the judicial review that cost the taxpayer £600,000. And the rush-through harassment policy lies on the shelf, gathering dust. It's not been used in the last 3 years, at a time when there are more complaints against Nicola Sturgeon's ministers than there were under her predecessor. We have seen this week that there is something rotten at the core of the SNP, and it is poisoning our democratic institutions. This isn't just about Alex Salmond. This isn't even just about the internal problems in the SNP. This is about the treatment of women in the future. So what is the First Minister going to do to make that right?
First Minister.
What is poisoning our democratic institutions, in my view, are politicians standing up and hurling assertions and accusations without a shred of evidence to back them up. And I think that's something all of us need to seriously reflect on. It's interesting, though, that Jackie Bailey stands up here and takes as gospel. I'm not sure when she became chief spokesperson for Alex Salmond, but she stands up in this chamber and takes as gospel every claim that Alex Salmond makes. When Alex Salmond was standing here, she didn't believe a single word that he said. So why don't we allow all of these claims, Alex Salmond's tomorrow, mine next week, to be properly scrutinised by the committee? Hopefully they will be able to do that, and then people can make up their own minds. At the heart of this are women. Women who came forward with complaints, first to the Scottish Government, later to the police, and the police independently investigated all of that. It was right that the Scottish Government put in place a process to allow complaints to be investigated. It was right that when they came to light, before I knew about them, that the Government didn't sweep them under the carpet, albeit the Government made a mistake. And when I became aware, it was right, in my view, that I did not collude with Alex Salmond to make them go away or sweep them under the carpet. That may have led to difficulties. That has certainly made Alex Salmond very angry with me. I think that is self-evident, but that was the right thing to do, because if we are to be a country where women can come forward, then all of us, yes, we need to have a rigorous political debate, but we all need to respect the independent institutions, the justice system, highly respected, and all of these institutions, so that Scotland is a place where the culture says to women, if you have been harassed, no matter how powerful the person who might have harassed you, you can come forward and your claims will be treated seriously.
Question 3, Willie Rennie.
Jackie Bailey's just made a very serious point about the handing of the name of a complainer over to Alex Salmond's Chief of Staff. So just to be clear, is the First Minister saying categorically that that did not happen, that the name of a complainer was not passed on to the former Chief of Staff of Alex Salmond before the meeting on the 2nd of April?
First Minister.
To the very best of my knowledge, I do not think that happened.
Willie Rennie.
What I want to understand is, following the revelation that this was an allegation, did the First Minister herself investigate this matter to find out the truth as to whether this information was passed on? Because an absence of action on this from the First Minister would be negligence in that respect, because there is corroborating evidence that this did happen. So is the First Minister saying that they are lying?
First Minister.
It is not my belief that that happened, but there is a committee process underway right now. There is also a process separate to the committee where the independent advisor on the Ministerial Code is looking at all of these matters, and what I am doing is allowing these processes to take their course. I think that is the right and proper way for me to proceed.
Thank you.